Vargas.
Here.
Commissioner Howard.
Here.
Commissioner Amin.
Here.
Commissioner Bates.
Here.
Commissioner McKee.
Here.
Commissioner Maddox.
Here.
And just Commissioner Ruth appears to be absent. So far, Matt.
Awesome. Moving on to the call for additions, deletions of the June agenda. Does anybody have?
One deletion, the Central Ohio Parent Leadership Training Institute would like to come next month instead of tonight due to a conflict.
All right. All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
All motion.
Second.
All in favor of approving the agenda for June 2025? Motion passes. All right, moving on to approval of the minutes from last month for your May. Did everybody get a chance to read those? Anybody have any additions, corrections? Seeing as none, can I get a motion to approve the May meeting minutes?
I'll motion. I'll second.
And all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, we are buzzing through this. All right, moving on to one of the staff reports. I'd like to call City Council Member Melissa Green. Go ahead and get us started. You do need to turn the mic on.
Let's see if I remember how to do this. Just hold it. Can you hear me? No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Good evening, everybody. How is everyone doing tonight? Good. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to come and disrupt your meeting today. My name, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Melissa Green. I am your neighbor. I live here on the hilltop. I am a Columbus City Council member and I represent the city of Columbus from right here in District 6, which the boundaries of our district here are pretty much contiguous with some very minor places with the Greater Hilltop Area Commission and the Western Area Commission boundaries. So it is a pleasure to be here tonight. I bring good tidings from my colleagues on City Council. I don't have an agenda or a mission. I'm not campaigning, believe it or not. I'm just here to say hello and share. I'm happy to share updates for some of the work that we're working on, and also want to make myself available to the commission or to community members just to kind of talk about issues that might be happening in the community and be available to be able to respond to them.
Awesome. City Commissioners, Commissioner Vargas.
Council member, thank you so much for being here. As a community member, I'm trying to figure out how we can be a better resource to your office. Would you mind just going through some of the constituent services that your office may be able to help with for folks on the Hilltop?
Yeah, well, I mean, so we're happy to help in any way that we can. We just actually, I'm so sorry, Johnny D, will you please stand up? This is John Drury. He is he actually was an intern in our office and then graduated from the Ohio State University, and we could not let him leave. And so he is here with us permanently now, but we have had some changes in our office. So this has been at the beginning of this year, as we've been transitioning, has been a very pleasant change in our office. And then many of you know also my friend and colleague Haley Gherkin, who is also herself a Hilltop resident and also herself a social worker like I am, and is a familiar face to all of you. I think that what my hope and intention is to be able to be accessible and available more like this. We have the privilege of being able to chair our Health, Human Services, and our Equity Committee, which certainly is something near and dear to my heart as a social worker. Certainly are touching issues, intersectional issues that I know are very prevalent here on the Hilltop that we're all working to address. And then I also have the opportunity to vice chair our Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee. And so, in terms of constituent issues, those are the things that we are touching most frequently and handling hands-on. We're also very engaged and collaborative with the Hilltop right now. There's so much great work and development that's happening here. We have Link Us coming into town, along the West Broad corridor. We've had the Zone In initiative, and now we're going to be moving into phase 2 of Zone In. And so my hope is that, since all of this is going to really impact our community, that we're just constantly remaining in community with one another. You're knowing what I know, I'm knowing and hearing what you know. So that way we're able to grow bigger and better together, I guess. I don't know if that answered your question or.
It did, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, do you take questions from the public?
Yeah, give me, 1 second. I'm gonna make sure all the commissioners go first and then we'll open up to the community. Yeah, Commissioner Smith?
Hi there, Councilwoman. Thanks for coming here. So I have one question. So we're gonna, as we're kind of working through recommendations for the capital budget, which you guys will be having hearings on, of course. And what are some of your priorities with the capital improvement
Mhm.
budget?
Well. So I think right now, we are sort of in a moment where we're waiting to see what may or may not be happening at the federal level. In terms of direct investment on the hilltop, you actually, Chair, White, I almost called you this weekend because I was driving down, in the Highland West area along Olive Street, and I was just like marveling at a lot of the new sidewalks that are kind of, tucked back there and the new curbs and how great it looks. And a lot of that is because of your advocacy, right? This commission has been one of the most engaged, the work you do around the Recreation and Parks Committee, it so diligently every single year has resulted in real investment. And it's kind of the thing that I point to as the gold star standard for a lot of community partners in terms of effective advocacy. And so, from my perspective, I would love to see more of that infrastructure investment being made so that we can continue to update those sidewalks that I know are in disrepair around the community or neighborhoods like mine, we don't have them. And continue to see investment in our transit system through the Link Us initiative. And really be, listening and learning to what you guys are seeing and prioritizing.
Well, thank you for that. And we've actually in planning and economic development, committee been creating a map that kind of shows some of the sidewalks that we're looking at that we could prioritize for additional city investment. I'll go ahead and at some point we'll send that to you as well as a survey that we've gotten from residents.
We also, later on this summer, you'll be seeing more information from us about an upcoming bond package that we're gonna have on the ballot in November. It's a bond package. It does not raise anyone's taxes. It essentially borrows against our good credit to be able to give us a line of credit to do even more infrastructure related projects and initiatives. We're really excited that that bond package is going to include the largest request to the voters of Columbus that we have ever put forward to invest in affordable housing, which is of course an issue at every community, including ours. So a $500 million appropriation for that. We also know though, as our city continues to grow, infrastructure as a whole, things like utilities, you can't just like put more houses up. Our electric grid, for example, can't handle so many people tapping into it. It's the same as your home, you only have so many circuits, right? And so at the same time as we're growing in other areas, we have to also be keeping up with that infrastructure. We've seen a lot of investment with Blueprint Columbus here on the west side. So that's been really great. But looking at things like our transit infrastructure, our streets and our roadways, our sidewalks and connectivity for multimodal transportation, things like upgrades to our electric grid so that we don't have so many large circuit outages. What's interesting, I don't think a lot of people know this, when you have large stretches of streets that go out in any given area, you don't have like a smart lighting system. There's no way for utilities to know where they need to go out to do the service. They just have to kind of go breaker by breaker by breaker to figure out and identify where the issue is and then make the correction to it. And so thinking about ways that as we're doing those investments, we can also bring better technology into that to make us more efficient for the long term, I think is something that this bond package is going to be able to help us address.
Any other commissioners? I'm gonna open up to the community. Yeah, I saw your hand.
I'm an advocate for public schools. I'm really concerned about their future. When I see the downtown leadership always advocating for tax abatements, that hurts our schools even more. So my question is, will you be the first council person to vote against a tax abatement since 35 years ago? We need really creative thinking on how to help public schools. Number one is stop stealing their money. It's corporate welfare. You're giving it to the rich developers and they get nothing.
Mhm. So, there are plenty of deals that come before council that never make it to a vote. I will say that. The way that we prioritize how we are incentivizing development in our community, whether you're looking at commercial development or residential development, is, based on many different factors. When we're talking about commercial development, we're talking about job creation, right? 78% of our city's general revenue fund comes from income taxes. We have an agreement where we share revenue streams by half with our school district, which opens up a whole new revenue stream to them that otherwise would not exist. And so we give them millions of dollars a year through those incentives that we're able to deal on the economic development side. We're talking about residential tax abatements. Unfortunately, we're at a moment right now where we're talking about the development of housing. We're not competing with places like Chicago or Detroit or out of state locations to build housing. We're competing with places like Whitehall and Reynoldsburg and our neighboring municipalities who are also feeling the same pinch of limited housing supply and growing populations as we are. The reality is that in the city of Columbus right now, we have about 102 housing units for every 100 families that needs one. And if you look at the national level at places like Portland and Austin, that you have seen significant downturn in homelessness and unsheltered homelessness on the streets, where we see that tipping point happen is once you hit 97 units, 98 units for every 100 families that has them. We also, even more troubling, if we're talking about low income housing, housing that is accessible and affordable for individuals that are living about below the 30% area median income, which is still a full-time working person making about $15 an hour. We have 27 of those units for every 100 people that need them. That means automatically right off the rip, 75% of people unsheltered. So we are at a moment in time right now, I believe, where we can't afford to be losing out on housing units to places like Whitehall, to places like Reynoldsburg, because if we slip beyond that threshold, that 99, 98 units for every 100 families that need them, we can look at any city, any metropolitan area across the United States of America, and we know exactly what is going to happen then, and we will be in a significant crisis situation in terms of our unsheltered
That
homelessness.
begs the question about tax abatement, whether you're the third city council person that I've asked this question to, and they all dodged with that 10-minute lecture about creating jobs. You've drunk the purple Kool-Aid and there's no changing your mind.
I don't believe that those two issues we're comparing apples to oranges here. What I'm saying is that we are working in close partnership with our partners at Columbus City Schools to ensure that they are being made whole for the incentives that are being provided at the city. And that work does not happen, not in partnership with them. And so I think that's where we're strongest, where we're able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We're able to address multiple different types of issues across the spectrum. Now, I will also say, I am equally aggrieved and deeply troubled with what we are seeing happening at the State House. The projected cuts to education, the increased use of funding for private schools, and vouchers, school vouchers. And I think that's something that, again, as we continue forward, and we know that additional financial threats to our school district are going to continue to come in this current administration, we're always going to have to be continuously talking about that. And if it gets to a point where Columbus City Schools would come to us and say, hey, this is really damaging us, this agreement that we have come to is not working for us anymore, I would 100% be a person to vote no on a tax abatement. I have a 4.5-year-old son. I plan on sending him to Columbus City Schools right here on the hilltop. It's not something I'm willing to sacrifice for my child or any children in Columbus.
Thank you. Are there any other audience questions? Any commissioners who've thought of some? Are there any online by chance? Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Councilmember. If you have anything else,
Nothing else for me. Thank you.
appreciate it. I will add to that, Councilmember Green has admitted to me that she does watch from home, so she may not always be in attendance, but she is always watching. So I just want to say thank you to Councilmember Green for being here tonight, and again, always staying on top of what the commission's working
Oh,
on.
did you say that? I always watch. I do watch.
It makes it convenient for
I
you
know.
guys to stay up to date on what we're doing, whether it's live or whether it's after hours. So I appreciate everybody watching from home and staying up to date. So moving down the list of city staff reports. I don't see Officer Cody here, but I do see Rob from the city attorney's office.
All right, well, thank you all. Good to be with you tonight. Quick hits on a few properties. I will start with a brief update on the case regarding a couple of sometime after hours clubs at Great Western. Most recent of these did shut down and cease operations in December of last year. However, as an illustration of sometimes how slow the court process moves, we were just since the last time I was with you all, able to get an injunction or court order against the owner of both the former Conco Line restaurant at Great Western, as well as a separate after-hours club that went by the name Sabor Latino and operated in a vacant storefront. That injunction prevents the owner as well as some associated business entities from holding a liquor permit in the future. The business that used to run the restaurant, Conco Line, was ordered to surrender or transfer its liquor permit by May 30th of this year. I did confirm based on the Department of Liquor Control records that are viewable online that did not appear to have happened, so there may be further court action on that front. 2015 to 2017 Fairmont Avenue. This is a property that was owned by Joseph Olora, with whom the city has had a number of legal issues based on rental properties that have been in disrepair, historically, sometimes severe disrepair. That duplex, that address is subject to an unsafe building order from some fire damage in about 2016. It does remain subject to that unsafe building order. I just highlight that one because today we did file a motion asking that Judge Mingo appoint a receiver to seize that property, take control of it, fix it up, and sell it off. Neither here nor there. This is just kind of in the weeds code case. As I would note, it was brought to my attention. As a lot of you know, most of what I come here and talk to you about are these sort of public safety related cases that we deal with. The sort of bread and butter of what I do day to day in the city attorney's office is dealing with code violation cases. I did have a neighbor from North Hilltop bring to my attention that the duplex, maybe triplex at 85 to 87 North Wheatland Avenue has visibly from the outside in recent months decayed significantly. I wasn't clear if this person was describing a collapse of a portion of the structure or components of the roof falling off, but something along those lines was brought to my attention. This is a case, like many of our cases that I always bring to your attention, as an illustration of why sometimes the court process does take so frustratingly long. This property was, the deed to the property says a registered trade name, which may or may not be able to hold title in the state of Ohio. We have served the person who registered that trade name, but we sent out certified mail to the only PO box we have for this business, if you want to call it that. And the United States Postal Service has not returned certified mail for that entity to the courts. So at this point, I have no choice but to retry certified mail. for filling out an affidavit saying I ran out of ways to figure out to try to serve this entity. Please run an ad in the newspaper that then has to run for 60 days. So incidentally, if you're aware of the property, at least bring it to your attention to say I'm moving it along as fast as I can. If not, it's an illustration of why the court process can be frustrating sometimes. I will also mention, it has been a couple months since I have been with you all, and I frankly do not recall if I mentioned this at a prior meeting with GHAC, but we are talking about with some community groups. I know I've talked with a couple of you all about the city attorney's office doing intentional outreach, maybe a sort of West Side Market initiative to proactively go to convenience store owners and talk to them about possibly voluntarily signing good neighbor agreements. So these good neighbor agreements would include things like what are in our court orders. Don't sell drug paraphernalia, no single serve refrigerated alcohol, things of that nature. Just wanted to affirm that process is continuing, and what we're envisioning over the next few months. It's just the city attorney's office kind of taking the lead and driving folks towards a meeting just to have that conversation with business owners. That's all I got for tonight. Hope I didn't miss anything that's happened over the last couple of months, but happy to take questions.
Awesome, thanks for the update. I do have two questions. One, as it relates to that North Wheatland property. I know zoning, they do provide like yard signs so that like residents can see that like there's something in process for a parcel. Is there anything that the attorney's office could like possibly put in the yard that says, hey, like, we're aware of this property and its current situation. If you've got any complaints or testimonies that you'd like to send over to the attorney's office, here's like a case number, here's an email address, but this is like, because I know a lot of our neighbors aren't online. So like 311s, like you can't, and sometimes too, if they've been so far backdated, they're closed, so people can't see that you're actively working on it. So if there's any way we could add a visual component, like we do with our zoning, to say, hey, this is actively being like approached by the city attorney's office and being worked on. Plus also it might help the property owner say, hey, oh, somebody put this sign in my yard, what's it about?
Yeah, not a, of course, as a lawyer, the first thing that comes to mind is, well, it's not an approved method of service under the rules, so it wouldn't solve my, but I like the idea, just given that I've only been thinking about it as long as you've been asking your question. I guess I can't promise anything, but I do really like that idea. Just to piggyback off of it too. I know that, and I don't remember if I've said this before, but when folks call 311 about a case that's already in court, about property that's already in court, you will see it closed as something like, duplicate court case number XYZ. I'm able to see those, and I do ask the city staff who work with us on these cases and show up in person, where I ask them like, hey, when's the most recent 311 we've received? How many of them have we received? So I just encourage folks to continue to make that report online, especially if you're seeing a change to the property. It's been X period of time, haven't seen the change. Feel like it's the biggest eyesore on that block. Feel free to make the 311 report. It does matter to me.
Thanks. And then second question is, are there any updates about the bus station off of Wilson? I know that they were a couple of months ago in the process of trying to find another location, something about close to the airport.
Yeah, they do pickup and drop offs. I believe both bus companies do pickups and drop offs at the airport, as well as OSU. Their location on Mound Street on the far east side of downtown is up and operating. Wilson Road should be 4 transfers. That doesn't mean that there won't unfortunately be people with luggage wandering around the neighborhood. And I have certainly heard from folks who live on those couple of side streets right by loudly and clearly that they feel the property is ill suited to the bus station. But it is limited to transfers at this time. We want any information that anybody has that tends to reflect on, you know, whether routes are beginning and ending at that location. We want to hear about it. Unfortunately, the fact that people are there with luggage and leave the property, we have covered with Greyhound and Barons, and it's not enough for us to show that they're not just doing transfers, that they are.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Maddox?
I thought the idea was that was temporary, so that allowance of them to do that type of activity at that property was temporary, and once they're up and running, as you just mentioned, they're up and running on Mound, that would cease because they do not have the permits to run properly at that location. So when is that going to cease?
So I guess there's an academic question about, or a bigger question about the property zoning. And I think that this has caused some confusion, and I just want to, as a baseline, provide the information. So there was a time when they were clearly not in compliance with zoning code. The reason why they weren't in compliance with zoning code, from our view, just to give you an example, is they have, let's say, something like 10 parking spaces marked on their site plan, and that site plan they turn into the city. Your property actually has to be used in the manner that's depicted by that site plan. So they have 20 cars lined up circling the place at all times, then they're not in compliance with their site. Broadly, I do have to say, do have zoning approval and a certificate of zoning clearance that allows for bus pickups and drop-offs. I think that bus transfer station may have been the verbiage that was originally used when they got that certificate of zoning clearance from zoning to operate that there. As far as temporary nature, timelines, I say I'm not currently assigned to that case because it's the person, it's the supervisor of our unit, as well as the person who handles downtown, who are now the two people assigned to that case. So it's always possible that there have been further developments that I'm not aware of. But that's what I know at this time. If you want further clarification, I'm happy to put you in touch with those folks.
Any other questions from commissioners? Concerns? Any from the audience? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate it. Moving on to Department of Neighborhood, OBC Eddie, West Side Neighborhood Liaison.
Testing. Okay. Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, residents. I have very few announcements for you today, other than we at the Department of Neighborhoods are requesting 2 representatives to serve as points of contact and also as editors for the WIC site that's about to go online. So Chair White, if you wouldn't mind letting me know once the commission discusses and votes on that.
Does the full commission need a vote?
That's a good question. They sure enough do not.
Okay.
So we could just designate, sorry.
It was. I know it was Brandon and Ashley Montana. Josh. Yes, Josh Maddox and Brandon Burgess. We're gonna attend the training for the Wix website.
Yes, they both attended.
And did, oh, okay. Well,
no, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I thought you, my bad. I didn't realize I had already.
No, it's all good. Yes, it took place on Thursday. Very informative. Thank you, commissioners, for attending. But yeah, we just, in order to move forward, they just need those 2 contacts to launch, and hopefully we'll be online this summer with the new website. I'm excited for the new features that will be on there.
Is there like an ETA date on like when they're gonna try to get that done?
I don't remember if it was said.
The go live date for the changeover is funny enough, Independence Day. So on the holiday. Take some time from your picnic to look at our new area website.
Will the old one still work
It will be degraded. It will go offline.
when the new one is? gone?
Correct, when they do the changeover.
Thanks.
And those are all the announcements I have for you. Please, if you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at the bulletin, please do. There are a lot of great upcoming events happening in the Hilltop over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a busy summer, but a fun summer. So, yeah, and if you have any information that you would like for me to share with the community, please feel free to reach out. So, thank you.
So much. I'm gonna call on Kevin Orr, if you have any updates for the Envision Hilltop plan. Okay, excellent.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Orr. I'm the pastor of Linwood United Methodist Church and also the co-convener of the Envision Hilltop Advisory Team. Got a couple of quick updates. First off is on Wednesday, June the 18th, there's going to be a Rise Up C-Bus block party at Highland Elementary School from 5 to 6:30. The Envision Hilltop will have a table there to engage the community, and there will be other community partners there. So it'll be a lot of fun in the Highland West neighborhood. That's again Wednesday, June 18th from 5 to 6:30. And then the next Envision Hilltop Advisory Team meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, June 25th from 5:30 to 7:30. That's Wednesday, June 25th, 5:30 to 7:30. It's going to be at My Project USA. The agenda is yet to be fully formed, so I can't really share with you that. But to stay up to date on everything that's happening with Envision Hilltop, or if you're not familiar with the plan and want to check it out, you go to envisionhilltop.com. Envision Hilltop is a community plan that was facilitated by the Department of Neighborhoods a few years ago with a lot of community input. Really serves as a roadmap and really a tool that we can use to leverage when we're engaging with the city in making investments here on the Hilltop. So I really encourage you, if you have not looked at the Envision Hilltop plan, check it out. It's been updated. It's got some really good story maps. It's a really great resource. So that's all I have.
Thank you so much. And if any commissioners want to see a hard copy, I do have one. So just let me know. I always forget to look around the tote of supplies that I get from the city. But if anybody wants to see it and read it in person, just let me know. I'll bring it to next week. Yes. Yes, there's also a copy here at the library if anybody wants us to read one. Moving on to announcements. I'm gonna call on, sorry, I didn't catch your name, but Justin from Hilltop USA 5K.
Oh, wait, someone left their water bottle.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Fote, and I actually am a newly appointed commissioner for the Far West Side Area Commission. So it is so great to visit an adjacent commission. But I'm not here as a commissioner tonight. I'm here as a member of the Columbus West Side Running Club to talk about our upcoming Hilltop USA 5K on July 5th. We are a free run club that actually runs 3 days a week here on the west side, 2 of which are directly in the Hilltop from Pastor's Church. So on Saturday mornings, we meet at Glenwood Avenue United Methodist Church. We're moving up to 7 o'clock next week for our group runs. We'll meet at 7 o'clock in the morning, parking right there, and then running along the Camp Chase. On Tuesdays, we run out at Westgate Park. So my fellow run club members are out there right now running around Westgate. And then on Thursdays, we go out to Battelle Darby for trails, to run trails out there. I'm a brand new runner in the last couple of years, so taking on a whole bunch of new things in the middle of my life. But I'm so excited to talk about the Hilltop USA 5K. It is, from my understanding, one of the longest running events now on the Hilltop. We've been around over 10 years. We have a lot of great energy. It is a family-friendly event on July 5th. There's an ice cream truck where everyone can get a free scoop of ice cream. Of course, there's the 5K event that runs a certified course along the Camp Chase Trail from Glenwood Avenue out around a loop and then returns back. We have just a great event where runners and walkers are encouraged to come. Commissioner Marcus has signed up for the heavy ruck. So if you want to watch one of your fellow commissioners come out and tackle that, it's going to be a lot of fun. But it is a really great event. And I just, as I got involved with my area commission, and we were doing outreach and planning for our event, I said, have we engaged the area commission here? Because the work that you all do in the community. So just wanted to share about our event. I'm happy to take any questions. I'll leave some materials. But it's going to be Saturday, July 5th, and we look forward to seeing as many of you out there as we can. We do have an expo day of as well, where several community partners will be presenting and having tables there. It's going to be a really great event. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Does any commissioners have any questions? No, I do. I think in the past that you guys have done cleanups on the Camp Chase Trail. Do you guys keep like a report or like audit of like how much trash you've picked up, how many people we've had out, things you've seen on the trails? And if so, is there any way that our commission could get a copy of that?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how diligently we track, but we do once a month, kind of in the fair weather months, offer a cleanup event along the Camp Chase Trail. So we'll run on a Saturday morning. We'll run for an hour or so. We'll take a little bit of break, and then we'll have club members and community members come back to clean up specifically that first kind of 1.5 miles out, 1.5 miles back along the Camp Chase Trail. I've done that myself twice with my kids and family. And as you know, if you've been out there, we do pick up a lot of trash and debris and just other items that are scattered from folks who live along there or otherwise. But yes, we do. We have a Facebook page as well. I gave you all information as our QR code. You can go on to the club's Facebook page. It's free to follow there. And we always post when we're doing a cleanup event. I think it's always fourth Saturday is when we do that. And that's a really great thing for folks to get involved as well. Thanks so much for asking about that. All right, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming out. Any other announcements from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Montana.
I know we were potentially gonna have a speaker from the library, but their summer reading challenge was kicked off this past Saturday. They do have a little booth at the front with information about how you can sign up. And then I also put some flyers that Kayla, the youth services manager, was gonna share about, but I know her window closed at 7 when she was available. But we're gonna talk more about the summer reading challenge later during committee updates, because we have a fun challenge coming with commissioners against each other.
Awesome. Any other announcements from commissioners?
Yes.
Yeah, Commissioner Arturo.
Thank you very much. The Highland Youth Garden continues to have their garden markets throughout the spring, summer, and fall. Tuesdays and Thursdays are from 3 to 4 p.m. And Saturdays from 10 to 11:30 a.m. at the garden. And there are still seats available for the 2025 summer camp. These are for children ages 6 to 13 from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Camp are still seats available for the June 23rd, July 7th, and July 14th camps. The first one, I have a couple here. Litter League is starting, so anyone who is looking for community activity and wants to either join or start their own, the Columbus Litter League can be found. I just Google it. So Columbus Litter League 2025. There is a team registration, and that runs from June 1st, earlier this week, to August 31st. Also, as a reminder, Summer Jam West is coming up on Saturday, July 19th, and this will be the 10th and final. That's noon to 7 p.m. at Westgate. We'll have a table there. I also saw, I wasn't aware of this before, but I saw that there was Park and Rec and volunteers out at Big Run helping to clean up some invasive species out there. So I just want to publicly acknowledge and thank them. And then also as a reminder from our colleague here who's concerned about fair school funding, and I share that sentiment. There's information about that. You can see how your districts can be impacted through Ohio's quote unquote fair school funding plan. And implications for education from the State House, all in for ohioskids.com fair school funding plan. And there's a data explorer there. Okay, so.
The other commissioners have any announcements? Are there any announcements or updates from the community?
Linwood United Methodist Church, and also the Hilltop YMCA is hosting a blood drive next Wednesday, June 11th.
from 11 to 5. So if you're available to give blood, they appreciate if you can sign up in advance, but they usually are able to take walk-ins too. So it's at the Y in the gym on next Wednesday already.
11th, correct, not the 4th.
Yeah, June 11th. The next one from 11 to 5. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Commissioner Carr.
Quick announcement, the Highland West Civic Association will be doing a part 2 safety summit here at the library, June 12th, 7 o'clock. So all of y'all be free to come.
Can you repeat the dates and time?
Yes, June 12th, 7 o'clock here at the library.
Yes.
I have a question for Commissioner Parr.
Yeah.
You happen to know who's gonna be sitting on the panel, or will it be a panel style?
I'm not 100% certain. We have invited the same people who had been at the one last time. And then I have also talked to the fire department, and so they might be sending someone as well. I'm not 100% certain, but it'll probably be about the same people.
Okay.
Most of the same people.
So moving on to presentations. They are not present tonight. We'll reach back out to them, see if next month we'll do it. Or for them, moving on to reports. Officers. I do have an update regarding the zoning application for Steel Avenue and North Eureka. After the meeting, I did reach out to the Department of Service and Public Safety. They responded fairly quickly, and as of the last update I received, they did go out and do a survey of the intersection. They identified some concern. They are implementing or putting together some safety measures to hopefully kind of combat some of the concerns that the community brought up about the intersection itself being unsafe. So please keep a lookout for possible changes over there. They did mention that they were most likely going to be reducing the parking on the north side of Steel Avenue, because with the new added sidewalk along that section, street parking in one of the directions does create a large blind spot for traffic. So that's one positive win for the community as it relates to something that was brought up to us, brought up by commissioners, brought up by 2 civic associations. I just recommend to other commissioners and other community members. I know in the past, we've collectively have worked on projects of the Hilltop in the past and have been told no before, but don't ever take that as a always 100% no. People's minds can always be changed. And case in point, Wilson Road speed reduction that we did a couple of years ago. We were able to get that road down from 55 to 45. We still got 10 miles to go, but one step at a time. And then I will announce that Commissioner Roof did resign as of Friday. So this is a notice to all commissioners to be on the outreach for a commissioner to serve or replace his term. It's going to be a 3-year term, as his term did just start January 1st of 2025. So it does have to be somebody that is a resident of the Hilltop. This is not a position that can be filled by somebody who works here. They do have to be a resident of the Hilltop. So please reach out to your neighbors, or if you know anybody that meets those qualifications. Again, it's going to be a 3-year term. They will start or be seated, as we don't have an August meeting. So hopefully they'll be seated by September. All right, moving along to Vice Chair Commissioner Montana. Do you have any updates? Moving along to Secretary Joe Argero. Do you have any? Nothing at this point. Moving on to Treasurer Dean Smith. I know you do have an update.
So this is our brand new treasurer's report. It's just a small addition to the new report that we get from Molavisi at Department of Neighborhoods. From here on out, we should be receiving this report monthly. All I added was a budget summary at the bottom, and obviously a budget category to the right. But essentially we have just under $2,200 left. The Zoom the Yeah, the Zoom and the Restream, those are annual. So those are one-time things for the year, and then constant contact, we're looking at changing to annually, but that's for this last month. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks. Moving along to zoning, calling on Commissioner Bates.
Great. You want to hand me that, or do we have a mic?
Dan's over there hoarding it up.
That's That's Dan's style.
These squelch pretty bad. So again, it might be better. Just say that.
All right. All right, we had two zoning applications that came before the zoning committee last week that we will discuss this evening. Also, during the last two zoning committee meetings, we've brought up the issue of notification. And long story short, we are exploring ways and processes to increase community notification through the committee. Olabisi, I'll love to chat with you a little bit as I've been trying to gather pieces of information from former commissioners and others. But we're gonna begin implementing an improved notification process. The city sends out notification before applicants come before BZS downtown. However, that is after they come through our committee. So we want to make sure that we are increasing notification to people so that neighbors can participate through the community engagement process through our zoning committee and that. However, that process obviously is being developed right now and beginning implementation and trial and error, you know, as we kind of explore things and try to figure out the best way to be as efficient as possible while also provide as much notice as possible. So that will be coming this upcoming month as we unveil that. So under existing, so everything has gone by procedure, but just under the existing process. So our first application up this evening will be BZA 25-034 for 2236 Union Avenue. I'd like to come on up to the podium and share a little bit about this project. This is a proposal. The current property is looking at, improving parking conditions. So go ahead and introduce yourself and
Hello, everyone. I'm Gerardo. And that's my dad, Sebastian. So yeah, we're here to request support for allowing front parking at a rental property located at 2236 Union Avenue. So we have a few key reasons for this request. The first being that the property sits next to a multifamily. So let's Google Earth. Is it possible to show multifamily next to it? Yeah, so there's a multifamily with 4 units located next to our property. And due to this multifamily building next to us, we lack parking due to it being street parking. There isn't that much parking, so we resorted to laying gravel and putting a property in the front, putting parking in the front, and especially at night, overnight, there's a huge shortage of available spaces for other houses in the area. And second, we do have a garage in the back, which has been mentioned before, but that garage is very small and it's not really a viable option for day-to-day use for parking, as well as the spot right next to the garage. There is no gravel or paving the back there, and it's very tight, making it once again not a viable solution for everyday parking. And my third point is that the front parking space that we're proposing, which accommodates 2 cars, it will not affect the normal flow of traffic. And in fact, I think it actually helps relieve some of the street congestion by creating two spaces to keep 2 vehicles off the road. And another point that I have is that along the street parking, typically, as I mentioned, at night, when the tenants are coming back from work, there's no parking, so they end up having to park further down the road away from the house. And the next morning it's happened a couple times where they get to their vehicles and they find them broken into, which is why we created front parking.
Just so the commissioners are aware, you can see the gravel area, and you said during the committee meeting that was put in around 2020.
Yes.
So technically that
they needed a zoning variance before putting that in. And then also city code requires that to be paved, which you did say that that is the plan, assuming the variance goes through, is to pave that area.
Correct.
Do we have any questions from commissioners?
Will it remain gravel?
No, the plan is to pave over it either with asphalt or concrete. Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Chair. So my question's, for you. Have you heard any, comments at all by the neighbors, or did you get any community feedback at the committee meeting?
We did not have any community feedback.
Okay, just curious.
One of the reasons why we're saying, how can we improve opportunities to solicit community feedback?
Oh, of course, I was curious on this, particular.
Is
Thank you.
it just a one-car garage in the back, or is it a two-car garage in the back?
It's a one-car garage.
And so is there space for a parking pad next to the garage, or is it kind of in the center of the lot?
The garage is in the center. There is a small area that could be used as parking in the back, but that's grass. Back there, and there's a tree stump in there. It's also pretty tight, and due to the gate, it's like not really viable for everyday use for our tenants to have to come home and go around to open the gate, and this, we don't see it as a viable option.
Any additional questions?
Was there any comments in the committee? There was a 2-2 split. Are all the commissioners here that voted in favor and opposed? Give their opinions. So maybe why they voted that way?
Yeah, so Commissioner Roof, former Commissioner Roof was one of the commissioners at that meeting, is no longer on the commission. The other three commissioners that were at that meeting were me, Commissioner Fagan, and Commissioner Carr. So if you have any comments.
Sure, my thoughts were, if you look down the street, there are multiple homes that are in the same situation. Not sure why your parking situation was addressed and there weren't others. But if you go down the street, there's multiple situations that are in the same situation. If that's going to continue to have those spaces paved and more uniform would help, I think, in my opinion. That was why I voted in favor of variance.
I had voted against because I don't think we are usually wanting to put parking in the front yards. And I think that we can, park in the back. That's where we're supposed to park.
So this, like 2 houses down is where my great aunt lived when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So I know this block really well. And I'm all for any sort of smarter parking arrangements.
Yeah.
Because I remember even when I was a kid, like it was just regular traffic, like other people that lived on the block. You would run out of places to park because you had more than one family member coming to visit.
Yeah.
So having your own pad specifically for your property, I think is smart. Because it tells anybody, like, this is us and it's right here.
Yeah.
As opposed to, we don't know who just parked in front of our house, Also, I think it would look cleaner. You guys don't have curbs along there. I think, like between any sort of curb bumper, or maybe that's what a gutter there, that's what the word I'm looking for, between the road and like what would be where the sidewalk is. So I think having a designated paved spot would be very smart, personally.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. To Commissioner Carr's point, oftentimes, parking in the back is favored. You do already have a one car. And it would be a significant investment more, but have you considered a 2 or 3 car back there? and making that the in route for, future tenants.
Mhm.
So, like replacing the one with the 2 or 3 car and, alleviating the need to even necessarily park.
Yeah, I don't think that there's enough space back there for that, and I think a more viable option would be to take down the garage, if we don't go for this, take down the garage and make that a pad in of itself. But we have seen situations because our previous tenant did used to park his work van back there, and he would have some issues of people just climbing the fence, because there's a little nook there in between the garage and that little pad. Would have issues with people trying to still get in his vehicle back there, which is why we prefer the front, because I'm not sure, I'll have to ask my dad, but I think there's a floodlight also at the top of the house, so that helps the ventilation, see with people trying to get into the vehicles. Thank you.
Additional questions from commissioners?
I was just gonna comment, one thing that you can't tell from this angle is that those two houses, I think including your property, but this was the case for my aunt's old place before the 2-story was built.
Yeah.
The actual entrances face to the side, so like when you're saying you're parking in the front, you're actually parking on the side of the house. So it's not like you're blocking
Still
the
the front if you're driving out the street.
right, but the way these are
That
situated,
door's right there in the front of that house on that.
oh, I guess so, but still, the way the street is laid out, there's not a whole lot of roadway in the alley or in the front. And if you've got more than a few people, this looks almost fast compared to like
People come to my
Yeah,
house,
but
they're parking on the street.
a curve though, like.
And everyone parks over it.
Yeah, I know, but it still makes a difference. I remember going over there to my aunt's. When my cousin died and we were in the street, like getting at the car, like there's very little. Delineation between, or if that's the right word, between the road and, where your car is when you park it. And I just think that's a smart parking solution and it's clean. It doesn't look junky.
Commissioner Figan?
Sir, one of the things I didn't ask you in the committee meeting was afterwards, if you were to take the 2 cars in front of the house, make it 1 lane and kind of make the cars be able to turn in and park so that they're parallel to the street, is that possible?
Good question. Could you repeat the question?
There's a lot of homes that have a driveway, right? Single car space to go into your driveway. And I don't remember the exact zoning details, because part of what you're asking for a variance for is related to the width of this driveway and then how far it sits back from the street. So I was just wondering if you could make it like a single car driveway that you could take the car in and then park it this way, put another car in and park it that way. Do you have enough space to do that? It does create the look of a single driveway with the ability to park 2 cars there. Have you considered that? Is that possible?
I don't think
Take
we
a
have,
draw.
yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't think we have enough room to do that. I think we'd have to push it further into the yard for that to be possible.
Right. Is that possible?
I think we could do that, yeah.
It doesn't alleviate any need for variances, right? Does it?
I mean, I think we'd still have to. Check, yeah, my guess is, I'm trying to pull it up.
Variance, 500 feet.
Yeah, so I think they would still need the variance that we'd be voting on tonight to be able to do that type of
It
design.
doesn't get the cars further from the street.
If,
I don't think they hit 25 feet.
You don't think so, Josh?
I don't think 20 I would assume
25
that
feet.
car is probably what, 10-ish feet long, so you may get 2 of those, so maybe your 25 foot is the edge of the front of it. I couldn't tell you though.
Great, understood.
It's
Probably still gonna need the variance. Okay.
yeah. And just I mean, Dan obviously knows this, but for those, when I send in our recommendation form to BZA, I include recommendations that we've made for them to, so like that sort of proposal that we've talked about, I will include that in our, you know, however we end up voting, I'll include that in the paperwork saying these ideas were discussed so that, you know, the city can get out there with their little tape measures and figure all that out with y'all as well. Any additional questions, Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Chair. I have just two more questions because I'm still on the fence about this vote. So one would be for the applicant. Has there been any sort of studies on how this might impact stormwater drainage for the neighbors and for the street at all? With asphalt being added?
No, there hasn't.
And will it slope down to the road or?
Yes, that is the plan, to have it slope down into the road.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question would be more for the zoning chair. So one of my concerns is that there's been a lot of city investment, or I shouldn't say a lot, but there's been recently a little more investment in adding parking to some of the cross streets in the Hiltonia neighborhood. We recently saw that with Walsh Avenue and near where I used to live in Springmont, where they've actually expanded the road a little bit and like added parking spaces where there used to be dirt kind of spots like there is here. So my concern would be that if that occurs in the future, what, like then we would just have this space here. I'm just trying to think about it in my head. But what my question is, if this variance doesn't pass tonight, what would happen? Would the applicant have to take the driveway out, or could it remain gravel?
So, the way the zoning code reads right now is if you have additional parking like this, it has to be paid. So if we don't approve it, the gravel would have to be removed. Yeah, and then replaced with grass.
Okay. And then to answer your first question, there are two storm drains adjacent to his parcel. So right here in front of their driveway, they've got two storm drains.
Okay.
So with it pitched, it'll hit this first basin, and then there's a second one in front of this city. So there's street drainage, and if the city was to put in some type of curb cut, it would hopefully most likely pitch that direction.
Okay. Thank you.
Any final questions from commissioners, from community? Yes.
Hi, I'm Center South from Homes on Hill. Where do the people in the four-family park? Do they have their own lot, or do they park on the street?
Can you repeat your question?
The people within the four-family around the corner, where do they park? Do they have a parking lot on site, or do they do street parking?
They do street parking, yes.
Yeah, so it looks like they have a curb cut along the front that they probably park in, and then down the side too. And it looks like they're stacked in. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend passage of application BZA 2534 for 2236 Union Avenue. Do I have a second?
Second.
Can our secretary?
We'll call the vote, and I will start with our zoning chair, Bates. How do you vote?
Yes.
I'm gonna move from my left with Commissioner Fagan. How do you vote?
Yes.
Carr?
Yeah.
Okay, Bridget.
Yes.
Vargas?
Yes.
Commissioner Howell,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Emmett, Commissioner McKee,
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox,
Yes.
yes, Commissioner Ardra, Commissioner Montana,
Yes.
and Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
And so, President, that's 13 of 14 with no abstentions, the result is motion passes. Great.
Thank you. So I will send the paperwork along with the notes and include some of the recommendations that we have for, as you look at how you're gonna concrete in this area down to BZA, and then it's up to them to get it on the schedule and then for final approval after our recommendation comes into them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Our next application tonight is BZA 25-052. This is for 233 South Oakley Avenue. This is a proposal to it is 3 combined lots in a residential single-family home zoning district that is proposed for 6 attached units, what we lovingly called during our committee meeting brownstones, although not quite brownstones in the New York sense, but a similar feel or vibe, I would say. So feel free to introduce yourself and go ahead and explain the project.
Well, my name is Jeff Lane, I'm an architect, been working with Sandler, who's the owner. We want to use this. I think it's.
I do have to apologize. I'm gonna interrupt for a quick moment. If we just take a 2-minute, everyone, intermission, maybe thinks amongst yourselves, I appreciate it.
Turn off your mic if you're taking that. Hot mic situation.
I have no idea what that slide is in.
So I was gonna call us, and I was like, oh, this over the parking lot, I was like.
You're,
Oh, no.
Oh, I got it. And then this is.
Yes, you know.
That's all I.
This is just.
If you're not back in your seats, we're gonna just.
Must be out.
Yes, so we'll get back to start again in another minute and a half. Sorry for the interruption. I just need some clarification on some processes. Go ahead and get everything started.
My granddaughter says like, my house to get one.
Crazy. Yes.
Some, I mean, we've been in here for over an hour, so I get it.
Surprised I haven't either, okay?
Right? Yeah. I asked what.
England called it. Over the pond. It sounds, it sounds.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Awesome. Sorry about that interruption. We're just waiting on Commissioner Neal. Here he comes. So once he's back in here and seated, you go ahead and get started again. Sorry about that. It's okay. I need to put it a little higher. I seem to have to always put a really close to your face.
Is that better?
I would.
Is it on?
Check and say the box is on.
It takes just a second.
Now is it on?
Perfect.
Let me get from the beginning. Yes. My name is Jeff Glavin. Architect here in Columbus for over 47 years. And so Ashley, the Sadler is the owner of the property and has asked me to assist her through this process. On the first slide, our image that you're seeing in the very middle is 233 South Oakley, which is the property that we're proposing the development on. The next slide will basically show the auditor's map where there are 3 parcels that were existing. All 3 parcels have been combined to create the existing property. The next slide shows the planning of what we were doing with basically taking 6 individual units, combining them and creating basically a 6-plex or 6 individual units. The zoning variances that you see off to the right become very interesting in working through the process. The zoning department, once we submitted the plan and it went to zoning, a lady down there, Christine Palmer, probably one of the more efficient folks in zoning I've ever worked with, basically puts everything together. And when she sent back, there was a specifically way on how she wanted to have all the zoning variances that were needed and how they were going to be requested and how they needed to be worded. And that's why the list there of all the variances that you see, it seems to be complicated, but it's not. And because we're doing 6 individual units, each dwelling unit had to have its own request for variance. Our front yard, we are in compliance with. Our rear yard, we are in compliance with. The south yard, we are in compliance with. The north yard, we are asking for a variance because we are going right to the property line with that part of the development. The other part that we are in compliance with is that as far as parking goes, we are providing 2 parking spaces for each unit. We work with zoning, so they were perfectly fine with us doing the parking in tandem. But pretty much all the tabular data and all the zoning variances that were being requested or identified on the site plan that we have been working with and in conversations with the whole zoning team, the zoning process. The next slide, we traveled through the neighborhood just to look at basically scale, size, other different types of properties that were, in that 6 dwelling unit combination. And then again, working with the scale of the properties that were around us. The one to the left, the second slide, right in the middle, it was really interesting when we had picked up our sign from zoning. We had gone to the property to put up the sign, talking about community engagement. The neighbor across the street came, asked what we were doing. We shared drawings with him, and he basically worked with us, went, got his drill bit and helped us put the sign up. So, and then there was a few other people that we had conversations with that shared drawings with them and everything else. So, to Commissioner Bates' point, we did have some interaction with the community and it was really, passing some of the feedback and everything that we got back. Then the next slide basically shows pretty much the same thing of what we were trying to do as far as, compatibility of colors and what we were doing with scale and how this was going to basically fit into the context of the community. The two houses in the upper right-hand corner basically started to define the color palette that we were going to want to use to integrate in with the community so that there was basically that, I don't say confirmation that there was a palette already existing, that we were going to come in and create something new or something that was so different. The other thing that was always interesting was the trash, which is the slide in the middle. With what's been going on in the city of Columbus right now, with trash removal and the big barrels and all this other kind of stuff. This is pretty much the common denominator we're finding through the community and other communities throughout the city. So we were, wanted to let you know that we were addressing that issue as well. Going to the next slide, this is basically our floor plan that we're proposing. Basically what it is in the middle, the first floor plan, it has a kitchen and then we have a living area in the front and a living area in the back. And part of where the design is coming from and what we were doing, again, the second floor has 2 bedrooms and a full bath. The basement has the opportunity for an optional bedroom. We have a full bath down there, but there can also be a playroom, again, with additional living space in the front. The design process that we went through to come up with this particular floor plan is going to be important to note that this project is not going to be apartments. They're going to be for sale. And with everything that we were having conversations with the city of Columbus, and with zoning and everything else, density is becoming an important issue. They were very supportive of the fact that we were doing 6 dwelling units, but even more supportive of the fact that we were doing for sale and not for rent. The next slide basically shows taking those floor plans and putting the combination of the units together. If you look at the plan, you'll see some undulation, some movement from the front to the back of the units, just so we have one big flat plane across the front. And also what we did in adjacent to the parking and the unit, we did do a little private patio area in the back. So each unit has its own little patio area or private area for their use. The next drawing that you see is the elevation studies that we have put together. With the east elevation, being the front door or facing Oakley, and then the north elevation, the west elevation showing basically the fence for the private area in the back, then with the parking, and then the south elevation. The next slide, basically, as we're selling this as an individual unit, what we wanted to do is show what each little individual unit would look like. So this is your pretty much like your front entrance. And then the materials that we were going to be using are pretty basic. The siding, pretty typical, in the area. The cornice or the cap piece, again, pretty typical for this type of product. And then a little side light fixture. Then we had 2 door types that we are using. The one on the top front door, and obviously the other one would be the back door. The entry is recessed to provide some, again, for snow, rain. And what we wanted to do, the lighting that's going to be provided there, we're only using a side light in the rear. We preferred basically to put a downlight up in the ceiling so that at night it washes the entire patio and we just don't have a little side light giving off a minimal amount of light. We really want to provide as much security with the lighting as we could. The next slide basically shows a perspective that's coming into our site, basically looking to the southwest. The next slide begins to show the scale of the property and our proposed project, located there. The next slide basically gets into coming in and looking to the southeast, again, coming from the rear, and that's coming from Ray Street. And again, here's what the project would look like on the next slide with the fencing and the patio area and with the parking in the rear. The next slide gets into another little aerial perspective that might give a little bit better understanding of exactly how the property is going to be positioned and how the project's going to lay out on it. We also added where you see the parking in the back, when you were on Ray Street, we were, normally someone's gonna look to basically better screen the parking. So we have proposed landscaping. We're not sure what that material is yet, but we did want to provide some kind of barrier between Ray Street and the parking. The next slide, I guess into, more of a perspective, bird's eye rendering of what the property would look like facing Oakley and the access to the property. And I think that's pretty much the last slide. Yeah, we had another piece to all of this, but the way the technology is working, we had a whole fly around that we could do. So if anybody wanted to look at a specific part or piece of the project, we could, but, technology was a handicap for us. But, I think that's pretty much the project that we're proposing. I'm sure there's going to be questions, so if I can open that up for questions.
Commissioner Marcus.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your commitment to selling these properties to folks here on the west side. My question is, we've seen a proliferation of private equity come into our community, buying up parcel after parcel. If approved, do we have your commitment that these specific properties will go to families as opposed to LLCs?
Oh, it's definitely family. And a big part of the answer to your question is Ashley is also a mortgage broker. And so that's a big part where this project is going. So from first standpoint, I'm not speaking for her, but I'm sure that would be yes to your answer.
Okay.
I had asked in committee, if there was any kind of HOA, and there's not, so people could buy those and rent them the very next day. There's nothing stopping them.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll tell you just from a mortgage owner's perspective, if we build these as condos, then it's gonna be really hard to finance them for FHA buyers. And my vision for this originally was to build them affordable, be able to resell them very affordable, and not have the condo association sort of hold back who can buy these properties. That was really important to me because I know how limited we are here for affordable housing. I see it every day, so.
One follow-up. I thank you for that clarification. Do you have a ballpark figure on what one of these parcels would sell for once construction is complete?
We're aiming for 300, right?
The market research analysis says.
This is my contractor.
Hey.
That is a very hard question to fully answer, and it will come down to the total cost to build.
Sure.
And we have worked really hard and diligently to try to piece together to keep it under a certain level. Speaking with my realtor who works in this area a lot, I've worked with a lot on other projects. We were told that we have to keep this build to have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath is what we have to have. Or families, small families with children, at least 3, we can't have 2. We went back and forth quite a bit, but we can't sell these for anything more than 325. And the problem that we are running into with all of this, the cost per unit to build. So it's very tight already as it is to try to get these 6 units, single family units. That's the only reason they're attached single family units is because we're cutting costs on shared walls, but we're also dividing everything up so that everything is 100% individual. There's parapet walls, so there's roof patchwork. We know exactly who's going to do it. You own this unit, you are responsible for this strip 100%. This is your house, your land, and our cost to build per unit, we're trying to keep the cost, the actual construction costs to 250. And so that still there has to be some money in there to pay the architect, to pay the realtor fees, the sell fees, and all the extra landscaping. Who knows what else the city could throw at us through this process of you gotta change this or you got to do this. So
that answers my question. Thank you.
Commissioner Kepler.
So this is the thing that nobody ever likes to think about or talk about, but so I lived in a structure like this once where they were condos, but each of the different spaces had different owners. The problem was, roaches were a common thing in these blocks of condos like this. Mine was a rental. And so like they couldn't address the whole building because everybody owned, the different units had different owners. So what measures can you put in place to prevent one unit from affecting the next?
Well, actually, the current building standards that we have to follow, they do not allow for us to have any real openings with just general fire ratings. So like each unit is 100% solo. Like I've done a lot of work on those multifamilies like that. They all have shared stacks, shared plumbing, and you have to get in contact with the other guy or whoever's over there, and that could be a full pain. And so this whole design is everything is 100% separate. There is no shared septic, no shared plumbing, no shit. The only thing that's shared is the wall. But again, we have to seal everything. And that's part of the whole, just the current building standard. We're not allowed to.
Yeah, and that's to the building code. So everything we're doing is obviously in full compliance.
I have just one question. You mentioned you have the trash solved. Does each individual unit, will they be getting their own city can?
Yes.
How that works?
That's pretty much how that works.
I can start at the back, roll up. Okay.
So if you're in the middle, you're walking around the entire building?
I'm sorry? Yes.
Would it be front street pickup on that street or in the alley?
It probably would be in the alley. That's what we're experiencing, what we found.
I appreciate that. Currently Gray Street, there's nothing over there.
Additional questions?
Looking at the current satellite, the bins are set.
So my question pertains with the sidewalk out front. The city has replaced both ends of your curb cuts, since you're kind of like on a corner of an alley and actual street. Is there any commitment to replace the like 60 feet of like 100-year-old or 50-year-old sidewalk out front, and then possibly the curb? Because from the street pictures, you can see where people are just parking in that 2-foot median and creating a rut in a ditch. And I just would hate for somebody to potentially spend over $300,000 and not get at least a new curb and new sidewalk out front. So yeah, the curb cut is brand new on both ends, so there's about a 60-foot gap in the middle. You can see where like the curb itself has kind of been squished down to not existent. I know it adds more costs and it's not, but it's one of those site features that I feel like uplifts the whole neighborhood as it's your responsibility.
Yeah, and the responsibility is there. We did receive a staff review result that came from, staff. And basically, one of the comments that came back from traffic management did address that issue with the sidewalk in the front, and they also required us to carry the sidewalk down Ray Street.
That's awesome. That was the other question I had. And then with as it relates to Ray Street, and I know you mentioned that you were going to potentially do more landscaping along that north side. And with your talks with the city, have you mentioned or reached out to Blueprint to possibly put in a rain garden, because you're going to be adding so much surface area, and there's no real outlet on this street for the rainwater to go?
Well, part of the reason we did is if we went back to the rear elevation again, we did create basically a 5-foot green space spot so that it would help with the absorption of that water and that runoff and everything else. So yes, we have addressed that. As far as getting into those kinds of accessory features that you're asking for, going back to when Troy and I were working on construction costs, those are amenities that yes, we would like to have. But there's also other ways that we need to treat the runoff of the water rather than getting something more specific like that, unfortunately. But
I just, if Blueprint has reached out to you, because you're gonna have a large side yard and you're gonna add, I don't know how much square footage of flat roof and then additional driveway, whereas now there's a giant grassy knoll.
It will be a permeable surface.
For the driveways, it will be.
We won't be able to not because of the area that we're covering, so it's gonna end up having to be a permeable surface, and technically. That land on the side there isn't actually owned by. Actually.
Right, and that's why I brought up
Oh,
Blueprint.
right.
Blueprint does have contracts with the city where they're installing these rain gardens. So I didn't know if they had mentioned, hey, like, this is a project that we can coincide with what you're doing. That does kind of, again, meet their standards of mitigating the runoff issue.
Conversation we have to have with them as well. Part of the reason being is that other missions that I have been presenting to, we have been showing entry driveways and everything. Traffic has come back, and we had one project, we have a alley, and they want us to basically construct the alley to on the city street standards.
Yeah.
That's like for what we're trying to do for, let's call it affordable housing. Doesn't make sense. Two different area commissions came back to the entities that, in conversation with, wanting permeable materials. Both communities more on the east side wanting permeable material for that reason. City, for some reason, still hasn't given us approval to say that that's okay. So we're gonna be in conversations with all of that, but in respect to your question, yes, we're gonna be doing what we can to assist that. And myself feels like you mentioned, we'll be in conversation.
Gotcha. And then have you gotten back a traffic study for the alley? It just, from some of the renderings, it looks like it'd be kind of tight for some of the minimal or
No,
minimum.
everything is in compliance. There's a 20-foot maneuverability
Yes.
that you have to have, and we have complied with all of that. And again, we have the report that came back from Eli Harris, with traffic management, and he's basically in support of everything we have done and the few things that he requests. So we have been in response to those questions.
Thank you. This question is for the chair and the committee. And I just want to understand it was 3 parcels, 3 lots. That, and the request is to allow now 2 units per lot effectively for 6 units in what otherwise would be a 3 single family lot. So, okay. What recourse, does this commission or a future commission have? Let's say that a future developers, wants to tear this out and put in single, what's our revert if this doesn't work out, for example, for a future commission?
Yeah, I believe the city has already combined the 3 lots into one large lot, like that process has already occurred.
It's all one parcel.
It's one parcel.
Properties, yeah, parcels have been combined.
So there would need to be, because we had a similar issue 2 months ago or 3 months ago where there was a property that had been combined that wanted to resplit. So that it had, if somebody in the future did want to resplit these into 3 individual properties, they would then have to apply to zoning and go through the whole process to have that occur again.
And when I bought the land, I was told that it used to be 2 duplexes and a single family. So. Yeah, so it wasn't like single family.
It was already explained.
Yeah, but some of those houses could have been 100 years old, so
Right.
the zoning code wasn't written until I think the
Right.
70s.
Is the reason for 6 versus 5 or versus 4 versus 3 just because of scale to make that?
To make it affordable, 100%. It's like if we built a single house there, we have to have like help from the city. Otherwise, we can't afford it. Like to build it, it's not affordable for anybody.
Sure. And the other thing is, we put our application into the city, into zoning, part of the letter here, where the city is in support of this project, but they're also encouraging more density, especially in areas like this. And then when it came to the for sale and families and everything else, that's what they're looking for. So we're trying to basically work in combination with them to develop this project.
Ashley?
I have 2 questions. The first, in my day job, I work in affordable housing. So one of the questions I have is, have you considered working with the Central Ohio Community Land Trust? They did just do a project like this with Finance Fund in Franklinton that they were sold to affordable buyers. It was kind of like a condo fee structure, but I didn't know if that was a consideration, because that prevents it being sold. You have to qualify at a certain AMI, and the AMI is kind of high, it's about 120%, but it guarantees long-term affordability.
Can I ask you what the scale of the project was that you're talking about?
The one in Franklinton, I believe it was more than this, like it was more units than this.
This is exactly where the affordable housing is an issue, okay? we have attempted in a couple of the areas to do, and we work with the land bank. And the land bank is looking for properties for sale and not so much for rent. When we try to do a smaller project and you look at the affordability issue, what happens is that the formula that they have to find on income versus how it basically plays out, it equals a rental rate that has to work. The problem with it is, and we have worked on this together, we can't build a unit to support the rent. We won't cover the debt. So that's why when you look at affordable housing and you look at these projects that are being built, that's why they're all 40 and 60 units and everything else, because it's the only way it makes sense. But when you try to do something at a smaller scale, that wants to be a house for sale, that has the starter family, like your firefighter, your teacher, whatever else, that tries to fit into that, we can't build it. And the only way it works is like, that's why I asked the question, if you start to get over a certain number of units, then that scale will start to come back together and then it becomes affordable. What we're trying to do is the terminology that you're using for affordable housing works with the housing trust and some different entities like that.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is build housing that's affordable, that's not getting into that $400,000 or $500,000 range, that fits into a market that in talking with the realtors and everything that they have relationships with, that are bringing that back into the fabric of where what can be sold. So we're in a real balancing act here with what we're trying to do, and hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, just a comment, so I work in a nonprofit, my husband is a teacher, like, we could have not afforded a house, at that rate. So like, that's just something to consider as like, yeah, people will say that that's our target market, but that's not always like how it works. But just a question,
But it's interesting here, too, because I think we've had conversations with the trade unions within the city. And if you work with the trade unions, you use their workforce, folks that are, open income masons and plumbers, electricians and that. The Ohio Housing Trust will come into play with that. It's interesting, the conversations that we've had with them is though, that process is going on in Cleveland, but it's not going on in Columbus for some reason. So we're in the process of investigating that as well too, to help address some of this housing costs that we're getting confronted with on the construction side.
We were trying to work with affordable housing trust as well, but they just told us they ran out of money and we did build. I built a house on the east side with the affordable housing trust for finished last year. And now they told us no.
Okay, yeah, funding is definitely a whole, yeah.
No, we're both trying.
Yeah, no, that's great. I do have one other question, you're the owner of the properties?
Yeah.
Do you live in the Columbus area, and how many units have you built or worked on in the area?
So I live in Marion Village. I've been in my duplex, which is a condo, for 19 years. That's my boyfriend, the contractor. He lives on Sullivan in Neshoba. And he's the expert here. So I saw this piece of property and I bought it. Knowing that he could do this like magic with it. He's built duplexes, he's like rehab zombie properties, but he's local. He also knows the importance of, creating affordable housing. Obviously, he knows the ins and outs of like how to make this affordable. So no, I have not done anything like this before, but I have full faith and trust in my team.
Cool, I'm just curious.
And I do want to say one thing, as we look at projects like this, as we look at the next phases of zone in Columbus, there are going to be, the phase one, if we recall, focused on those main thoroughfares, Broad Street, Sullivan, High Street. Phase two and phase three are starting to move into our neighborhoods. And, as you mentioned earlier, that issue of density is a big issue. That I know the city is looking, how can we develop more density? And, figuring out this question of affordability. Not getting into politics and stuff, but there are threats like more tariffs and lumber and all these things are very real things that impact the construction market. So figuring this out, how to develop affordable housing in a meaningful way, I think is one of the great questions that local, state, and national leaders need to be asking right now. Because the current system, I think we can all agree, is not working for anybody. So I do want to thank you for trying, as you said, that your first time asking these questions. And I think, you know, I always say, you know, even if something doesn't work, if you learn something from it, you're falling forward. And then, you know, the next time you come along or someone else, you know, hey, now we know better ways to do X, Y, and Z on those things as well. So I just want to provide that
I
comment
also
there.
have sort of an idea, just from a lender standpoint, to roll in some seller concessions so that the buyer can take advantage of a much lower interest rate than the going rate. So, because I know now we can't really count on rates dropping like we thought we could, so I'm mentally prepared to somehow buy down rates for buyers to keep it affordable, you know, not knowing what's gonna happen with that. That's a thought. And we have really great down payment assistance programs too. Great.
Additional questions from commissioners before any community questions?
The result of the vote I saw in committee was 3-1. Just a couple of comments about rationale for and against.
Do the other two commissioners want to weigh in on this?
Well, I mean, I had some concerns. I mean, we're kind of throwing around the phrase affordable housing. I looked it up in that zip code, and the median sale price of a house in that zip code is around 230. And so it's a little hard for me to know who's gonna be buying it at $95,000 more over there. That it's a little bit high for our neighborhood, I think. It'll be the biggest, one of the highest sales for the single attached units.
I
In
looked at
Highland
something
West.
similar and so.
That's real high for our neighborhood. I mean, house sold across the street from me for 110 last week.
If I can address that question, in all my years of being involved with development, if you're gonna improve a neighborhood, you never wanna start at what market value is or start lower, because you'll never go up. If you can bring a project into a neighborhood that starts at a greater level, it's gonna encourage that development and bring that, let's say, new community to a better life. And years ago in downtown Columbus, when they built the first, you know, high-rise condo down there off of Mount Street, everybody was shocked because they said that was not, it didn't make any sense. Then Marinova came along and a lot of other developments spurred, but it increased the value of that entire area. It took it to a whole nother level, not only for that area, but for the community in downtown as well. So it's a great question to ask, but I think the people that are at risk are standing right behind you. And, there's just a commitment that we want to try to make this happen.
I bought my property on Sullivan for $100,000 in 2020, and I put $135,000. Still appraised at 225, but it's slowly
Right, 'cause,
going
I mean,
up.
our taxes, we've seen a lot of people in our neighborhood, taxes get doubled. So if there's a $325,000 sale next to those people, that their taxes are gonna go up even more. The neighbors in that immediate.
And
zone,
that's a real
their
concern. I
taxes
mean,
will go up.
that's something that
I just got through.
to be honest, I'm like at a coin flip right now. The density is important, but I mean, just at realtor.com, just one source, there's nothing for over 300 in 20 blocks in any direction. And so this is a real challenging question. And I very much agree with my commissioner about the implications for other tax.
I mean, I've lived in Marion Village for 34 years. And about, 3 months ago, I think it was, my mortgage payment increased by $400 a month. Okay, almost $5,000 a year. Because the city auditor feels that the property values throughout, it's just not here, throughout the whole city, we're going up. And I'm not quite sure how that addresses everything, but it did make me very happy.
Yeah, just for the purpose of time and the great discussion we're having, just we just need to move this on.
Let's have Dan comment first and then.
I just wanted to add really quickly in committee, if you look at the long list of zoning variances that are there, a lot of them are about the size of the side yards. And that's what we're asked to be looked at. That was the
Yes, you're right.
perspective that I looked at this from. I'm still confused about, it's listed as 3 separate parcels in different places that you look. And I was surprised, Joe, you were kind of leading to the question about, it's not gonna change my vote, but I still don't understand why there wasn't a need to do any kind of a variance with the parcels themselves, if they were supposed to be R3, and now we're doing like multifamily units there. I don't know, the city's fully looked at this, but from the perspective of what we were asked to look at the zone variances, a lot of them are about inches and feet and stuff like that. So that's why in committee I'll do this.
And then I'm concerned about the variant sign not getting posted till Saturday. That doesn't get the neighbors any notification.
Again, with all this discussion, and again, out of transparency for what Carla just said at there at the end, and discussion we're trying to have to be a more open, transparent commission to not only everybody who's watching, but all of our neighbors. This application was submitted to the commission on May 20th. And 12 days later, you were heard at the zoning committee. This is by no means a strike against you on how quickly you were able to get through the process. But again, to be fair to all of our neighbors and to all of our applicants who've come before us, I'm gonna make the motion that we table this. And kind of refer it back to the zoning committee, so we can allow everybody within a 1 to 2 block radius of this parcel to voice either their concerns, their opposition, their support. Everything that I've heard, I'm in support of it, but it's not fair to the neighbors next door who only saw the sign on Saturday. And then by Wednesday, you were already here at the committee meeting giving a presentation. And they could be watching at home today, tomorrow, but they're not able to voice their concerns or their support in a timely manner that I feel like is appropriate. So again, I'm gonna make the motion that we table this application and then hear it at our full commission meeting, I'm gonna table this application, refer it back to the zoning committee for the month of June. So I'd love for you guys to come back, give us a good time point to allow people to come forth, either submit responses, attend the meeting, and then we'll rehear this application in July 1st. And that's when we'll take a full commission vote.
Are you gonna?
Is that a formal
presentation?
The formal presentation can be a lot quicker. We did spend a lot of time asking a lot of questions, but I think now that the full commission has heard the presentation, I think it would be appropriate to say you don't have to get it from start to finish again, just so long as if there are questions that are asked, we get answers to them.
Okay. And is that a formal motion then, James?
Yes, I do need a second.
I'll second.
And do we need a?
Let's take a roll.
First.
Sure. Oh, yeah, okay.
I just want to make one comment. So I see this as, I do see this as a potential model that could become very common in the Hilltop. So I do want to thank you for doing the legwork and doing those economic costs and things. And that is one reason why I think giving those extra couple weeks for folks to be able to weigh in and to really, especially as we're looking at trying to get community buy-in into the second phase and third phase of zone in, where I could see this as becoming a template model for them. The more community input we can have early on and conversation about this project, as well as the larger kind of new trends that I think we're gonna be seeing, I think will serve the greater purpose of developing consensus and conversation around moving away from single family homes into these other types of housing models.
Great, Joe, can you go ahead and take a roll call vote?
Okay, yeah, roll call. So the motion to table PZA 25-052 and refer back to zoning committee with the plan to hear in July, and this will allow time for additional public comment with a abbreviated presentation just to allow for any other questions and answers. Second was from Commissioner Vargas. Our vote for that motion, and we'll start with our chair again, Bates.
Yes.
And this time I'll start with Commissioner Smith on my left. How do you vote?
Yes.
Montana?
Yes.
I agree. Commissioner Maddox?
Yes.
Commissioner McKee?
Yes.
Commissioner Emin?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Again, I want to preface by saying this is not a strike against you. We just want to give the community more time for feedback, but I am going to vote yes.
Okay, Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Barkus?
Yes.
Commissioner Kepler?
Yes.
Commissioner Neal?
Yes.
Commissioner Carn? Yes. And Commissioner Fagan?
So it has been tabled. I'm sorry to, hopefully you guys don't see this as a waste of time, but again, if this was happening next door to you and you didn't find out until the last minute, I'm sure you probably would wanna, hopefully, as elected representatives, the courtesy of an extension. Again, I appreciate your presentation, everything that I've heard. It sounds wonderful, and I can't wait to vote yes in July. But again, I want to give other neighbors the opportunity, their voice to speak, either in opposition or hopefully in support of this, because like I said, everything I've heard so far has been wonderful. I can't wait to see it. I mean, we can no longer continue the status quo of living next to vacant lots our whole entire lives, and we need housing. So thank you so much, but this has been tabled, and hopefully we'll see you again at the zoning committee meeting. Commissioner Bates, that's this month. You have the date time.
Yeah, Wednesday, something at 6:30 here. What is that? What last one? Wednesday, the 25th. Be here. It'll be fun.
We did have one question, sorry, from the audience.
I'm curious, have you talked to the building department and regarding what they call aware standards, which are the standards they have for construction? Because it seems to me, and looking at what you presented, you're probably gonna need a couple of variances from them for their actual building. So I'm curious if you put your plans in front of the city yet, and they give you feedback, because it does get complicated.
They won't take the plans until we have some form of approval or certified addresses, yeah. So, but everything has been designed to the current building standards that there are. But for,
You know when I say aware standards, you know what I'm talking about? That's what the city calls their building standards.
Well, I mean, I know it's the building standard.
No, they call it aware.
Normally, the process is we submit.
Do you know what aware standards are?
When we submit the drawings, they go in. What happens is that I have never been able to submit a set of construction documents that got approval from the building department without a comment letter. And in that comment letter, it addresses the point of what you're talking about.
Okay.
So, you know, that's just again a part of the process, but the building department just.
Well, I know they're willing to work, but I'm just making sure that this is addressed.
Also, thank you so much for the question. If there are any more comments about it,
Thank you.
feel free to attend the zoning committee meeting. And again, thank you so much for coming out.
Next committee meeting in July.
It should be July 1st. Yeah, so it'll be the first Tuesday, so we'll be right back here again in July.
See you then.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for all your hard work on this. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, moving along, we are behind on the agenda, so we're gonna jump around. Sorry, committee meetings, you're gonna have to wait. Moving down to unfinished business, because it is already 8:30. The community relations standard guidelines, this is gonna be its second reading, and we are going to have for the motion and a vote. So I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Montana.
So, sorry, let me. So last month we proposed a standards guideline for community relations, but it's also includes some of our web presence here. So Josh went ahead and pulled this up. So everyone has had at least a month to review. Community relations has been working on this for the past couple of months. And so it really just has kind of how we should prepare our meetings. Just something to note too, the address is actually listed wrong for that applicant on our agenda. So I would also like, that's all, I'm also glad we're giving it more time, because that's something that we need to be correct about when we're informing the public. But it's just giving people more awareness of our meetings, so it kind of goes along with what zoning is saying. Also just the management of social media and the commission. So we heard the first reading of this last month. So I can motion that we approve this. Is there a second? Second.
I was just to ask, what's highlighted in yellow, you were highlighting for us the changes.
Yes, the changes that we considered. Yes, sorry. Should have an edited version in front of you. But then this would not go in our bylaws. It would be like an addendum to our bylaws.
So it'd be a standalone document
Yeah.
that lives within inside the community relation committee. As it relates to, this is a standard, this is what we're all gonna collectively agree to, adhere to. So there was a motion by Commissioner Montana, was seconded by Commissioner Carr. Formal discussions, and have any more questions, comments, or concerns? Awesome, moving on, Commissioner Ardro. Do we want to do you want to
Just do a
voice?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Motion passes, moving on to new business. There are only two things on here. The first one being August recess, so this is in line with how City of Columbus council members meet. There's going to be, this is going to be the motion to skip August full commission meeting. Do I get a second?
I'd love to.
And seconded by everybody. Can I get so is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of canceling the August school commission meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes. Moving on to the next one, the November full commission meeting, I'm still waiting on more information from the library. But we do have an addition to this one, which is we need to we need to put in a formal request for yard signs. And I'll turn it over to Commissioner Montana. And I do request that we order 5, just needs.
Do we want to order a yard sign or an A-frame?
Well, I'll turn it over to you because you will know exactly what's going to be on the material.
Okay, so backstory for those who are not at the Community Relations Committee. So over the last couple of months, we had talked about just having a sign that we could place in front of the door. So we could invite community members who are at the library to know what we're meeting for. So this could simply just be like a laminated sign that we like tape up. It could be an A-frame, it could be a yard sign, but it's really just something that can go so people know that we're meeting here and that they can join us. Because we see a lot of people walk by, at least I do from this position, see a lot of people walk by and they look in, and I don't want them to think that they're not allowed in a public meeting. So it's just another way to encourage folks to participate as they come by. So really just want to motion that we use the city's print shop to order something. I don't think we need an A-frame because then I worry about like the storage of it. So I think like just a large sign that we can laminate and stick to the door. So defer to all BC of the best practice for that.
So you have certain options. You could do the corrugated plastic yard sign, but you could also just do a large poster. And then we can ask that it be laminated. If not, if they aren't able to be laminated, that is something that we can still get it printed. And then that's an additional service that the commission could purchase later on. I can double check to see. I'm pretty sure they would laminate it.
Okay. Yeah, maybe poster sign seems fine.
We've purchased in the past, and it's being stored at my home, some foam core and some easels and things that I'm just waiting to put to use, so.
We could put it on easel.
Put on foam. core.
Dan's home is our cold storage unit.
Stored in Dan's house.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're mostly in favor. We just need to figure out the semantics, but I would kind of refer back to, I like the corrugated yard signs. They'll easily fit on an easel.
That's fine.
We could put one out front of the library, just maybe include some language that it's the first Tuesday of every month. So if commissioners would want one, they could stick them in their yard. But I would recommend that we get 3 to 5 of them, just so if they're yard sign, we could put them out front for the duration of our meeting. Because it'll be double-sided.
Yeah, and if the city sprint shop can do yard sign, that's fine.
They sure can, because I have 15 at my house. So, roughly. Awesome. So the motion is to
Use the city's print shop to order up to 5 yard signs to advertise our monthly meeting to encourage people that are at the library to come join us.
second. Awesome. All those in favor of ordering signs from the print shop, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, motion passes.
Let's do it.
Well, you should have spoken. All right, so we're jumping back up to committee reports. Just wanted to make sure we got all of our new and unfinished business out of the way first, so up first, Commissioner Maddox for Montana, whenever you're ready, community relations.
Yes, I think that's also me, so sorry. I think the biggest announcement that we have for community relations, well, one, thank you for the passage of our standards guides. We did spend a lot of meetings discussing that. We did meet this past month. And one of the brilliant ideas that was shared by Commissioner Barkus, is that the Greater Hilltop Area Commission join as a family for the summer reading challenge here at our local branch. So I'm gonna pass it to Commissioner Barkus to talk about the summer reading challenge and how we're gonna do this.
All right, I'm about to knock some socks off. All right. So, as some of you are aware, the Summer Reading Challenge has just begun. That is a Columbus Metropolitan Library-led event that helps incentivize folks, children and adults, to continue reading. There's something that happens in the summer called the summer slide, where literacy tends to go down, and it has an impact on learning later in life. So I want to take this moment to issue a challenge to all of my fellow commissioners. And I think that we put our money where our mouth is. We lead from the front, and we all join in this summer reading challenge. I know I've already gotten one Commissioner Erica Howard involved, who, by the way, as a shout out, is color coordinated with her book. But I'm proposing we track our summer reading minutes as a commission, we pool them together, and then we rub it in Franklinton Area Commission's face that we are so much more literate. And they win softball, we win reading.
Yeah.
But I think it's a simple, meaningful way for us to support literacy and show that reading matters in our community.
So there should be a sign up that everyone can participate. And then we also kind of planned as community relations as a way to do like a social media campaign. So Erica has a great example tonight of matching her outfit to a book. So if you want a picture with it, so that way we can promote the summer reading challenge, but also promote the commission and kind of challenge the other area commissions. So we would love to challenge the Franklinton Area Commission, Westland, other west sides, but also all across town. So we kind of we realize that this is last minute, so we can't do like a full-on challenge, but if any of them are listening now, you're welcome to challenge us. So we'll have more details, but just a friendly competition of reading, or maybe not so friendly because we're really mad about softball.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are interested, you can sign up for the summer reading challenge. Again, this is open to adults, so I implore folks in our audience to join in this worthwhile endeavor. You can either join on the Beanstalk app, BEANSTALK, on Android and iOS devices, or you can go onto columbuslibrary.org /summer reading. Now you have my time.
Thank you. Like your progress.
But that is one.
Yeah.
The only other thing I can think of is, we have a couple of tabling opportunities. So the Rise Up C-Bus Block Party was mentioned, that's on the 18th. We have, Commissioners Kepler and Barkus that are signed up, and then Summer Jam West on the 19th. So we do have that, well, actually, one of the shifts we need is the 4 to 7 shift. So if anyone is available for that later shift, just let me know.
I did sign up. I did sign up for that shift. I don't know if it came through, but.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Is that the shift that,
But it was a shift that
okay,
Terry.
so I'm not still then, because I might be with you if that's the case, because I have volunteered to help. I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm
I
kind
can
of
add
talking
you to
to
that
you one day and said I could do it, so it's not a big deal. I'll just have it on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yep, yeah, now I see you. Okay, yeah, I'll add you. That's it. Next meeting is okay.
Thank you so much, and I think we'd like to formally claim Councilmember Green for this reading challenge, so we're gonna throw a line out to her Melissa, if you're still watching, you're on our team now for this reading challenge.
Right.
No, we did talk about that in the Community Relations Committee, and it does sound like a worthwhile event. I'm excited for it. Hopefully everybody picks the book this summer and shares it so we can get some photos of commissioners up. Hopefully we can get the photos taken here in our library to help show support of the library that's been so generous and grateful to us with all our meetings. So with that said, I'm just going to keep on moving to government legislation, which is surprisingly me. We did meet last month. The biggest topic that we had was discussing possibly consolidating our 9 committee meetings down to a potential 5. This is an ongoing discussion and we are by no means rushing this. So please, committee chairs, commissioners, attend government legislation so that we can have a discussion on how this is going to hopefully pan out. The goal is to get it down to 5. Currently we have 9. And this would allow commissioners to attend more committee meetings, provide input on not just one topic and then turn around and discuss the same thing in another committee meeting. Again, our goal is to have this all ironed out by September, to have the first reading and the second reading in October, and we'll pass it in November, so it'll take effect next year in 2026. The next thing is petitions will be made available this month. At the end of the month, I believe it's June 26th, for our bylaws, which I hate to keep changing, but for the city attorney's office, we're not allowed to provide them out early because it says 90 days. It's the very semantic of.
The library will be closing in 14 minutes.
Sorry, it's a late.
Again, the library will be closing in 14 minutes.
All right, library's closing in 20 minutes. We will be meeting this month here at the library, the 24th. Human Service and Education Commissioner Archer.
Check, thank you. I was not there, but thank you to the commissioners, Montana and others who met on the 21st. This month, there was a presentation from the Central Ohio Parent Leadership Training Institute, and I understand we may have a presentation from them at the full commission sometime in the future. We continue to work on safe route to school infrastructure audits, which will be beginning this summer. Saturday, July 12th from 10 to noon at Highland Elementary, and then that same Saturday, July 12th from 1 to 3 at West Broad, and we're working with a variety of city partners and county partners to plan for that. Next meeting is Wednesday, June 18th, here at the library at 6 p.m. And Carly Booz from the Affordable Housing Alliance of Central Ohio will be a guest presenter.
Thank you so much. Moving on to Commissioner Fagan, looking for review.
We tried to meet on May 28th. We didn't have quorum, so we did not meet. Next meeting will be on June 25th, following the zoning committee meeting. It'll be here at the library. The committee has been continuing to upload to the website the list of all liquor permits that have been issued, transferred, canceled since the beginning of the year, and all the liquor permits that are pending in the zip codes 43204, 43223, 43228, 43123. I did not necessarily, the committee's not been taking out the exact address, maybe it's outside of the greater Hilltop, but it's in those 4 zip codes. There's currently 84 liquor permits currently pending in our area.
Thank you so much. Moving on to planning economic development, Commissioner Smith, Montana.
Thank you, Chair. I'm gonna skip most of what I have here just to hit on really one key point. Which is, as a lot of you know, the capital budget process has been delayed by several weeks, if not a few months. And so typically by now we would have voted on priorities that we want to hit on, not only to give the council, but also to advocate for during those public hearings. Since it's not entirely clear when those hearings will happen, it could occur right before council recess in August or even after. Likely I imagine it could possibly be after. So at our next committee meeting, irregardless of what's gonna happen, we plan on looking at a lot of the survey results. Discussing some of the conversations that we've had over this several months. I know a lot of you have, especially with the safe routes to school items, with the park audits, with some of your other committee business have talked about certain things related to our capital improvement budget, which, if you recall, is regarding the city's infrastructure, our built environment. So that's going to be a big focus at our next meeting. If you have any feedback on that, whether you're on a committee or a resident, please send that to me. If you're a community member, feel free to reach out to any of the commissioners. Our contact info is on our website, on the Greater Hilltop Area Commission website. But we're going to talk about how at the next full commission meeting, we'll vote on a list of priorities that we'll gather at our next committee meeting. So if you have one takeaway tonight, is be prepared at this next full commission meeting to vote on something related to our advocacy for the upcoming capital improvement budget. And to let our committee know about feedback. Our next committee meeting will be June 17th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here at the Hilltop Library. Keep in mind, we usually meet on Thursday, but because of the Juneteenth holiday, we're pushing it back to that Tuesday. Hope to see you there.
Thank you so much. Moving on to public safety, Commissioner Fagan or Commissioner Carr. Do you have maybe a brief update of the next meeting?
We are scheduled for our next meeting, July 9th, 7 p.m. right here at the library. And thank you, Commissioner Chair, for getting that situated and talking to public safety on Steel Avenue. I think that's fabulous that you do that. Thank you. And if you guys are on the committee, I hope you guys can come to public safety, because if it's just Dan and I, we don't have to. So, and one thing we are going to be doing, just kind of to give you guys a little quick thing here, is that the chief fire department came in a couple of years ago, was talking to GHAC about how some of the converted streets from 1 to 2-way is really hard for the fire trucks to actually navigate down the streets. They're also really pushing for some of the streets that are extremely narrow, particularly on the streets that are east of Hague, to be one side only.
Yes.
Every mirror that they hit is the firefighter gets disciplined for that.
Yeah.
And so their trucks that they drive are so very wide. They hit they had 19 wrecks in less than a year on trucks.
Thank you so much for the update. Look forward to the meeting. Moving on to recreation and parks. That's going to be me. We do have 2 meetings this month. The biggest one being June 17th here at the library, 6:30 p.m. It's going to be with city officials to go over the 2024 park audit. I apologize to the community for the delay in that, but because of the department's playbook that they were working on at the beginning of the year, our meeting got pushed towards to now. We will be doing our park audit on Saturday, June 21st. We will be at Big Run. We will be meeting in the athletic parking lot. So not in front of the playground, not in the way back towards the Soapbox Hills, but right there at the athletic complex parking lots where we're going to meet up. Please look for a yard sign. There will be one next to my car. So I look forward to anybody who's going to be attending. And commissioners, if you're interested in Rexham Park and you're not on the committee, please come out. I appreciate it. And if anybody has any inspirations of potentially being the chair, I'd love to talk with you more, maybe get you a little more involved about how the park audit works. It does involve Excel spreadsheets, but it doesn't have to moving forward. So again, I just try to find a successor, as I'm not going to be here next year. So with that, we're going to move on to any other last minute commissioner announcements, concerns that wasn't brought up during the meeting.
Concerned it's 10 minutes.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So
There was a motion to end the meeting by Commissioner Maddox.
I had a quick question. Do we bring names of recommendations
Next
to the
month.
July meeting?
Yes,
for the, fill that FTC.
yes, there will be a job posting on our socials as a unpaid position. That I'm already trying to work up on. So there was a motion to second, all those in favor of adjourning the June meeting,
I.
opposed, abstained, motion passes.